our mission was to go talk to a suspected bomb maker, and there was this older guy that was walking around and kind of just watching us, which is normal. It became less normal because he kept coming back and watching and then going away, and then he'd come back and watch and then he'd go away. And then we walked right in front of the older gentleman's house, and he was nowhere to be found. And I was immediately, like, red flags are just popping up in my head. I'm like, this dude was so interested in what we were doing, and now he's just gone. And I saw him move real quick and out of the corner of my eye, and that's kind of what caught my attention, and I kind of squared up to him. And when I squared up to him, he had already pulled a rifle from behind his back and just started spraying. And he was too close to miss. I was born and raised in the Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky area, and yeah.
And had there been any history of military service in your family?
Yeah, we had a little bit, but my uncle was in Vietnam. I had another uncle that was before that. I mean, yeah, absolutely.
You enlisted in the Army in 2010. Why did you decide to enlist, and why did you pick the Army?
I always felt like I needed to be a part of something that meant something, that I wanted to do something that was bigger than myself. And the Army was just growing up. I watched all the movies and all the TV shows, and it was always the Army. The people who went and fought, like, those to me were what soldiers were and what my idea of a soldier was. And when it came time for me to enlist, that was the only option for me. If I was 21 when I joined, and I was the old man in basic training, which is crazy.
What's it like to be the old man at 21?
It's weird. Like, 21 is not old. But when you're in basic training, it is.
Did it go pretty smoothly for you? Or?
Yeah. I mean, the military, basic training in the military in general is relatively easy. I mean, you're told what to do, how to do it, when to do it, and even what to wear when you're doing it. And, it's basically just listening and doing what you're told. It's all the other stuff that gets hard.
Did you know what you wanted to specialize in the
I
Army?
knew when I joined that I wanted to fight. That to me was what a soldier was. So I went in, and immediately I knew that it had to be infantry. Absolutely.
How soon after you completed basic were you on your way to Afghanistan?
Yeah, graduated basic training, and 3 months later we had boots on the ground in Afghanistan.
That's pretty quick.
It was very quick.
Tell me about the 4-4 Cav, a little bit about their history maybe, but also what their mission was going to be in Afghanistan.
Yeah, our mission in Afghanistan was what all of our missions were in Afghanistan: try to win the hearts and minds of the people there, and try to basically push out the Taliban from there. And yeah, that was our mission set going into it, and that was our idea going into it. And I think we all kind of know how that ended up.
Yeah. Well, what were your first thoughts of Afghanistan? It's obviously very different. So
yeah.
Where were you, and what were your first impressions of the land and the people and all that?
Yeah, I was in the Kandahar province of Afghanistan, and it's beautiful. Afghanistan is a beautiful country. It's especially when the poppy fields are blooming, it's absolutely incredible. Where we were in the southern area where you could see the mountains, and then you could see the desert, and then you had all the poppy fields and stuff. It was absolutely gorgeous. But if there weren't things in the ground that could hurt you, it would be a great place to go visit. It doesn't really hit you until you get shot at the first time. You get there, and you're there to do a job, and again, you're being told what to do, how to do it, when to do it, and what to wear when you're doing it, and you train to do a specific job while you're there, and then you go on patrol, and it's just every other day, and then you get shot at for the first time, and then it's like, oh, this is real. Like, bad things could happen. I mean, that's when it really hits you that this is a war zone. Like, this is truly a war zone. Like, it's real now.
So the patrols you went on,
mm-hmm.
did you have? Were they based on specific threats? Or?
Yeah, it all depended. That every patrol was different, and every patrol had a different mission set to go with it. When there's anything from going to talk to a suspected bomb maker to going to talk to a tribal leader and just try to get information, or just going on patrol till we get shot at, and then, initiating contact with the enemy and then coming back, and just so the drone that's up ahead could see enemy movements and how they move and how they operate. I was a Valin operator, and the Valin is basically a metal detector, and it was my job to walk in front of everybody and basically scan the ground and make sure no one stepped on any IDs. And I remember the first time they told me that and how nervous I was that was going to be my job, and that I literally had everyone's life in my hand and on patrols. And then I started training with it, and then I got really proficient with it and very good with it, and knowing the different sounds it makes compared to the different metals that are in the ground and stuff like that. And then it got basically to the point of where I don't know if I could have done anything else. But also when I got hit, that's why, losing my friends made it so much harder, because they took over my job after I got shot.
All right, let's talk about April 21st, 2011. How did that day begin for you?
It was just like any other day of going on patrol. Our mission was to go talk to a suspected bomb maker, and it was literally just like any other day. You wake up, you eat, you go and start getting ready, getting pumped up, and getting ready to go out the wire. And it was just like any day. And so then we started walking, and a little bit into, probably about an hour and a half into our walk, it was we came up on the guy that shot me.
Did you see him before it happened?
Absolutely. Yeah. So what happened was we crossed this water area, and then we kind of stopped in place and reassessed where we were and where we were going to go. And the whole time that we were sitting there was this older guy that was walking around and kind of just watching us, which is normal. Normally, if we're around, they're curious, especially kids. The kids over there were always curious. They wanted to come see what we were doing. But the older gentleman, he came out, he looked at us. It was very normal. It became less normal because he kept coming back and watching and then going away, and then he would come back and watch, and then he'd go away. And it became very obvious that he was trying to figure out what we were doing and where we were going. And so we finally figured out where we were going. We put a plan together, and we started walking again. So we walked right on the right side of his hut, and then we jumped over the wall that was right next to it. Over there, you jump over grape rows, you jump over walls. That's just what you have to do, which was tough. But yeah, so we jumped over the wall. We got into this, they call it a road. I would call it a sidewalk. It was not very wide, which is crazy because they drive like vans and stuff down these little sidewalks. It's insane. I don't know if the Afghan people are the greatest drivers I've ever seen or the craziest drivers I've ever seen. But yeah, so we were in this little sidewalk roadway, and then we walked right in front of the older gentleman's house, and he was nowhere to be found. And I was immediately, like, red flags are just popping up in my head. I'm like, this dude was so interested in what we were doing, and now he's just gone. And I remember looking back, and I said, hey, the old guy that was here is gone. Like, be ready, something's about to happen. And literally 30 seconds later, I saw the guy that was standing there behind the wall, probably 12 feet from me, and he just looked like every other civilian there, just trying to figure out what we were doing. So I went back to doing my Valin thing, and I saw him move real quick and out of the corner of my eye, and that's kind of what caught my attention, and I kind of squared up to him. And when I squared up to him, he had already pulled a rifle from behind his back and just started spraying. And he was too close to miss, honestly. He ended up hitting me 10 times. So basically started here in my thigh with one shot, and then 4 in my hip, and then just kind of ran up me this way. And then I ended up getting 5 in the shoulder. There were 2 that went through my rifle into my plates. I had some bruises on my chest, but yeah.
Yeah, I heard you don't count those too.
I don't count those.
I would count those too.
There's no reason to.
I guess the chest plate worked.
Absolutely. Yeah, thankfully I had the weapon there in front of me as well. Because I was doing the Valen, I had my rifle slung across my chest. Had I not had the rifle slung, I probably wouldn't be here right now. The rounds went through the rifle and into the plates, and they went into the plates enough to where I had bruises on my chest. So had the rifle not been there, we wouldn't be having a conversation.
As it's happening, what are you thinking? Are you thinking, what do I need to do tactically? Am I in trouble? What's going on?
I remember not being able to do anything. I remember just kind of screaming, just letting out a scream. I remember the pain. Whoever said that adrenaline kicks in is a liar, because I remember every bit of it. I remember getting shot. I remember the pain, and I remember waking up on the ground. And I noticed that he was messing with his rifle. His rifle had jammed, and that's why he had stopped shooting. And that was when I basically took my rifle and aimed it at him, and he saw that, and he took off running. He dropped his rifle, took off running. And thank God he didn't notice that he had hit my weapon, because I pulled the trigger and nothing happened. And I was like, oh, well, okay, this isn't going to work. And I had no way to defend myself in any way, shape, or form. Thankfully, he didn't notice that. But yeah, I mean, I was awake the whole time. Once I hit the ground, I was awake the whole time.
I'm sure it's all of the above, but was the hip or the shoulder, which one was causing you the most pain?
It was all of it.
Yeah.
It was all of it. And it wasn't so much the pain. The thing that really sticks with me is the smell. The smell of your own flesh burning is something I wouldn't wish on my worst enemy. It sticks with you, and it doesn't go away. And I remember laying there in so much pain and trying to figure out how to get back to my guys, because me getting shot was the initiation of a whole other ambush that they had tried to do. And so they were getting shot at. They were in the middle of an ambush as I was laying there. And the pain hurt, but the scariest part of it was that I didn't know where that guy went, and I was just expecting him to just kind of peek his head around the corner and just finish the job. He knew that I wasn't dead. He looked at me, I looked at him, like, yeah.
How much blood were you losing at that point?
Way too much, way too much. I lost so much blood at one point in time that my eyesight actually shut down. It was just kind of like a white film that I saw, which, thinking about it now, I wonder if that's kind of like what people say when they see the light. Their parts of their bodies start to shut down, and my eyesight started shutting down, and I just saw a white film. And yeah, I remember how scary that was, but trying to just stay calm as possible. When you go through basic training or you go through combat lifesaver course, you're taught that going into shock is going to be the number one killer in a combat injury. Like if you're a casualty, try to stay as calm as possible. And so I did. And my guys got to me, and thankfully they understood the assignment, because I started joking with them and they started joking with me, and that was my way of trying to stay calm. And it worked, apparently. And I remember we had to go back over that water that we had initially climbed through. And I remember them going through that water, and I remember me almost falling out of the gurney. And I will never let them live that down. Absolutely. They almost dropped me once, and it's so funny. I say it all the time to them, and they're like, "Man, look at you, you're huge." But yeah, it's so funny.
So they were able to stabilize you enough at that point. Where did they take you initially?
Initially, I went to the Kandahar Airfield Hospital, and that was the initial emergency trauma, just trying to get me to where I'm able to at least make it through the night. And that was where they continued to try to you know, clog holes and fill holes with gauze and stuff like that. And they immediately started putting me on blood. They started getting blood, you know, circulating through me again. And yeah, my eyesight started coming back. I remember laying there and saying that I couldn't see, and then they started pumping me full of blood and started giving me other stuff, and I remember starting to see lights in the hospital room, and I was like, oh, I'm starting to see, like I can see again. And I remember some lady bending down and saying, hey, it's okay for you to go to sleep, like we got you, like you can give up now, we got you, like don't worry, it'll be fine. And so I did. I immediately passed out, and I woke up a couple days later. And craziest thing about that, though, is a couple years later, I was talking to a guy who was in that room, and there wasn't a woman in that room that day. So that's insane.
How do you explain that one?
I have no idea, but it gives me chills every time I think about it.
Hi, my name is David Duncan, and I have the honor and privilege to be president of the American Battlefield Trust. Our mission is to preserve the unprotected battlefield land from the Revolutionary War all the way up through the American Civil War, and to educate people about what happened on this hallowed ground and why it still matters today. But even more, our purpose is to inspire appreciation for America, for its history, and for the sacrifices that were made for all of us on those battlefields.
So we jumped on a plane. Well, I say jumped. I was carried in a gurney on a plane, and got into the plane in somewhere between Kandahar and Landstuhl, Germany. They had lost pulse in my arm, and they thought that they were going to have to take my arm. They thought they were going to have to cut it off and take it. Luckily, modern medicine being as incredible as it is, someone had the amazing idea that you could actually just take a vein out of my leg and replace the artery with it, which is insane, because I don't know what health class they went to, but the anatomy class that I went to, I was told that veins and arteries are completely different. But apparently a vein will grow into what it needs to be to can help continue the process of blood flow. And yeah, you know, that's incredible. So whoever made that decision, thank you. I still have my arm. I'm so thankful for that. I didn't really understand the extent of my injury. I knew that I was hurt. I knew that I was shot. I knew that my hand was messed up. But I thought, you know, they'll fix me up and I'll be back in Afghanistan with my guys. Like, this is cool. I get to see my family for a little bit, but I need to get back and be with them. Your whole job, your whole mission, your whole purpose in the military is to take care of the people to your left and to your right. And there's such a relationship that's formed and bonded, like that bond that becomes a thing that to where you rely on them and they rely on you. And there's nothing like that. You know, I mean, I rely on them to keep me alive, and they rely on me to keep them alive, and you can't find that anywhere else. And you build a relationship and you build a bond unlike anything else, and that makes you do crazy things, like say I just got shot 10 times, but I want to go back, you know. But you form a love for these people, and a very strong love for these people, and you want to be there with them to protect them. And there was a point when I went from inpatient to outpatient, and I spent 6 months outpatient at Walter Reed. And the first initial transition into outpatient, I had a meeting with my physical therapist, my occupational therapist, and we had a conversation about it. And I was like, man, I just need to heal up to where I can get back and go be with the guys. And that was where they kind of really hit me with the truth of the extent. And they were like, man, like, this is a lifelong injury. Like, this isn't going to be something that's just going to heal or that we can fix right now. Like, I'm sorry to say it, but there's not a chance that you're going to be able to go back with your guys unless a miracle happens, which is something that can happen. But other than that, there's not a chance that you'll be able to go back. And I remember, you know, coming to that realization and how hard that was. But yeah, and then it switched from I'm going to go back and be with my guys to, okay, well, maybe I can heal enough or take time enough to heal to where I can at least go back to a line unit. Like at least I can stay in. My whole idea before all this was to make this a career. The Army was the career that I wanted to do. I wanted to do 20 years and then get out. And so, that was my plan, was that I was gonna just heal and get back to a line unit. And eventually they were like, man, like, we don't think that going back to the line unit is something that you're gonna be able to do. But we have this list of all these other jobs that you might be able to do in the military. And I looked at the list and I took it, back to my house and really thought about what I wanted to do, if this was something I would, because, I joined to fight. That was my idea of a soldier. My idea of a soldier was to be there and fight and to go after the bad guys instead of them coming here. And so all of these were non-deployable jobs, and they were all jobs that basically were kind of sitting behind a desk. And I was like, I don't want to do that. That's not what I signed up for. I signed up to fight, and if I can't fight, then what's the point? And that was really kind of when all of the depression and stuff really hit. That was when I was realizing that this thing that I grew to love, that this job, this career that I wanted was about to be gone. And that's when I made the decision to get into the med board process and then get medically retired.
It was a few more years before COVID, and you picked up the guitar and the whole music thing started. What did those intervening 5 years look like?
Yeah, I had a whole life in those 5 years. I had 4 kids in the process. I had 3 kids. I had 1 before while I was still active. I had a career shooting archery. Actually, I shot archery with the U.S. Paralympic program. I found therapy in archery. I found kind of an escape in archery. And then COVID hit and the world shut down, which means that my therapy, my escape was gone. And I needed something, when it gets quiet is when the demons knock the loudest, and COVID was very quiet. And I needed something to get out of my head. So I always had a guitar in the corner of my room, and one day I was like, I'm gonna jump on YouTube and I'm gonna figure out how to play this thing. And so I did. I jumped on YouTube and I started learning G, C, E minor, and D, 4 chords that can help you play thousands of songs. And I started playing the way I figured the best way for me to learn was learning songs that I grew up listening to, because I knew what they were supposed to sound like. And if they didn't sound that way, then I would just jump on YouTube and try to figure out why they don't. And so I started learning songs. I started learning how to play songs and getting more comfortable with playing, but also singing as well. And it became that escape that I was missing. It became that one, sense of purpose, that focus, that one main focus that I could focus on and get out of my head. And then it kind of just blossomed from there. I was learning how to play. I knew these chords now, and I still had all these feelings and all these thoughts and all these emotions. And I was like, man, like I need to get these out of myself. Like I need to get these somewhere before the cup overflows. Like I can't let this cup overflow. And that's when I decided to learn how to write songs. And I jumped on YouTube again and I started learning how to write songs. And I started learning how a verse goes into a chorus and how it goes into a bridge, and all this comes together and how it becomes one thing.
It's just amazing to watch the hurdles you've overcome. You mentioned the injury to your hand that's still permanent, and so you play the guitar. How did you work around that?
I gotta say, luckily I learned how to play after my injury, because if I knew how to play before my injury, I probably would have given up. It was hard. Yeah, I mean, you gotta think about it. I got no feeling on my hand whatsoever. I have this much movement in my hand, and that's all I have. So these 3 fingers just kind of sit there. So it was painful, and it was hard, and it was, but the therapy outweighed the pain, and it outweighed how hard it was to figure it out, and how hard it was to get this hand, and because I have no feeling from basically here down. So the movement and everything that I have to make in order to strum, like all of that, like trying to find rhythm in a hand that you can't feel, is very hard. And so had I not known how to play, if I knew how to play, I probably would have given up. And then, the world slowly started opening up. And I remember going on the outskirts of Nashville, and I decided I was gonna go and play an open mic night. Why not? What do I have to lose? I've done karaoke before. Why not? What's the difference? And so I got up there and I played the first song I ever learned how to play, which Should Have Been a Cowboy by Toby Keith. I don't know what that performance was like. It was probably awful, but for me it was everything. That escape and that sense of purpose and that therapy that I had found in everything else before was there, but it was magnified 100 times. And and I hope that with my music, I hope that with my story, I hope that someone hears it and it helps them in some way, shape, or form, whatever that looks like. And and I hope that it gives them some type of hope, that you don't have to be defined by the bad, but you can be defined with what you do with it.
Yeah, that's still a serious problem, obviously, with the post-traumatic stress and the statistics of veteran suicide. And so you've been very blunt in saying, one of my goals of my music is to help you put down the gun.
100%.
Have you ever heard from someone that said, yes, you have helped me do that?
Yeah, I still very clearly remember that it was kind of the moment when I realized that we were doing something that meant something. I was at a show in Phoenix before the Super Bowl. It was the first time I ever got to open up for an artist, and I got to open for Dave Grohl, which is crazy. Also, Dave Grohl is one of the most incredible people I've ever met in my entire life. But so we did an acoustic show, and I opened for him, and I played a song that I had written 2 days before that. It was a song called How Do You Choose? And it's a song about my survivor's guilt, about why I'm here and my best friend isn't. And the event that we played was for veterans, and there was 200, maybe 300 veterans in this room. And and I played the song, and it was the first time that I'd ever played a song, and then it was just kind of quiet afterwards. And I was like, oh my God, they hated this song. Like, this song is my heart and soul, and they hated it. And then I kind of opened my eyes and realized that everyone was kind of consoling each other. And that was when I realized that there was something to that song, and that we needed to record it, and that it needed to be out there. Then fast forward another day, and I get a message from one of the guys who co-wrote the song with me, named Jesse Wayne Taylor. And he had a buddy who was in the military, and he was in Phoenix, and the message went on to say that he was in Phoenix and he was at the show. And the reason why he was messaging him was because Jesse Wayne Taylor helped me write it, and I said Jesse's name before I sang it. And he basically, the message was like, man, I'm gonna be 100% honest with you. Like, I was gonna end it. I was gonna end everything, and I was gonna be done with this. Like, I was over it, blah, blah, blah. And he said, I figured before I did, I've always wanted to see Dave Grohl play. And I figured if tickets are free for veterans, I'll go watch Dave Grohl play, and then I'll end it when I get home. And he said, but I wasn't ready for Scotty. Like, he played this song called How Do You Choose? And it changed everything. And he's like, man, I realized that I'm not alone in this. Like, I realized that this is something that we all deal with. And Scotty made me want to continue moving forward. And man, like, that's it. That's the whole reason I want to do this. And that was the moment that made me realize that I could actually do some good. And that was it, man. That was what lit the fire. 100%. That was what lit the fire.